Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Geezerology. That was a clip of English singer-songwriter Ben Howard playing a song that is on the debut album released in 2011 called Every Kingdom. This song was one of the bonus tracks on the extended edition of this album, and this is a song that Marissa introduced us to. Singer that Marissa introduced us to. And he has 4 albums out now, including one this year, but I think the one that we're going to concentrate on today is called Every Kingdom, which is his debut released in 2011. Marissa, where'd you go?
I'm so sorry. My laptop is not charging and I had to get a charger like immediately. So I got it. It's all set now.
Okay, well, since you're finished with that, you want to talk about Ben Howard?
Yeah, I love Ben Howard. I've been listening to him for some time. I had him on my iPod, so I mean it's been several years now. I love the way he plays guitar. There's several YouTube videos of him just like playing acoustically and all different sorts of like intimate venues and around different spots outside, which I really value. And he does just like dance around the guitar. And I find that just so beautiful and encouraging to listen to. And there's a song called Keep Your Head Up, which is just, I learned that on my guitar, and I broke a guitar a little bit ago. So I was trying to play that for you guys, but I'm unable to do that. But Ben Howard does a better job than I, but I really, really love his music, and it's a lot of fun to play as well as a guitar player myself. So,
Bob, do you have that guitar handy?
Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact.
Hold on just a minute, everybody. We want to show you the guitar that Marissa.
But it looks a lot different than the last time you saw it.
Oh, that looks pretty good now. Hell, the last time you showed that to us, there wasn't too much of it there.
So I would point out that Marissa didn't just break this; she demolished it. And when she brought this back to me, the only thing that was left of it was a piece like right about here. The rest of the top was gone, and then this entire side piece was gone. And Marissa took this to the park, was playing, and I'm going to go ahead and tell the story, Marissa.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't mind if I embarrass you. It was in its case. She leaned it against the back of her cart with the intent of putting it in the trunk, forgot about it, and backed over it. So Dad spent about 2 weeks with a whole bunch of wood glue and clamps, piecing it all back together like a jigsaw puzzle. And then I even had to make a couple pieces to fit in here that were splintered beyond use. So
it's beautiful. You did a great job.
Is Marissa
lost a little bit of its tonal quality, and there's but so anyway, Marissa's very good.
Is Marissa getting the guitar back?
Yeah, I'm gonna return it to her, and it's like here, so. I bought a replacement, and so I'm going to give her that one. Not give, I'll loan it to her again.
Scott, in my defense, my parents named my middle name Grace, and I feel like it's really just followed me the rest of my life with just everything. So blame it on that.
Yeah, but grace means unwarranted favor.
or like a graceful like person, like being graceful. Like I don't have that at all.
Now, graceful is never an adjective I would use to describe you.
I receive a lot of it, so that's good. But back to Ben Howard.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. But about Ben Howard, what is it? What is it about him that grabbed you and tugged at your heart? Is it a singing voice? Is it his songwriting? What? Is there anything specifically that really?
Yeah. I mean, I think I ran across him on YouTube, like listening to him at a park, and he's like playing, and I'm watching his fingers move, and I valued more than anything the way that he could use like palm muting, and like that's something that I really I really lean to when I'm playing guitar is palm muting and like using my fingers, rather than a pick, or just using chords, to play, but using strings to use those chords and define them. And when he's doing that, he also has a very like a different sounding voice than a lot of people. And like I don't know, I think that all together the reason I suggest it to you, especially during this season, is I love listening to him like in the autumn and winter, because they're so like thick songs, in my opinion, like when I'm listening to them, but they're also very graceful, like almost like how the seasons are changing. And I really like it. That's not a great explanation, but he's a really good guitar player, and he is a great, phenomenal singer as well, in my opinion.
Well, yeah. I'm picking up on a trend here, Marissa. So you tell me if this is valid or not. Okay. I think this is what the third artist that you've introduced us to, and they all come from the United Kingdom, and they all seem to be identified as solo artists.
Well, not the 1975 was a band.
Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot about the 1975.
Yeah.
Okay. I correct myself. Most of them have been identified as singer-songwriters from the United Kingdom. So do you like anybody on this side of the pond?
To be honest with you, like a lot of American artists are not as intimate with their music as far as when I grew up. Like music is very poppy and such in my generation. And so what I value a lot in like, people on the other side of the pond, if you will, is just their passion for just displaying their emotions through their songwriting, through their music. And, both, Ben Howard and Dermot Kennedy both can play a song in front of you and it'd be just as powerful as like one of their songs I'm listening to versus, someone that's like, I don't know who to compare him to, but yeah, no, I really like the intimate level of Ben Howard.
So you find these.
That's interesting. Is it? I never considered this, but is there a difference in the motivation as to why, say, British artists or I don't know, if UK artists or whatever, is there a difference in the motivation as to why they make music and why they make records and why they sit up on stage? Is there a difference in motivation? And the first thing that came to my mind, and I don't know if this is true or not, but my thought on that was that, okay, are UK artists more interested in the art form, whereas in the United States, maybe they're more interested in commerce?
Yeah. I think that, that definitely, I can hit that. That's a great point to be made, especially when you think about artists that are in the UK or are developing an album, not necessarily a concept album, but they have a work of art to be able to give to their listeners. And a lot of times in the United States now, singles and singles and singles, and you could have 4 hit singles and then put them on an album, but the album really wasn't made in compilation together with those songs,
That's interesting.
Yeah. So you're not finding American artists who you think are as serious about the things they're trying to say as their United Kingdom counterparts?
Right. Yeah. Almost. Just a shallower version of what like music really has been for me, which is music has been like a therapeutic way of being able to handle emotions. And I found that a lot of artists, at least the ones that I've shown you guys, have a way of really portraying the way that they're feeling in an accurate way without kind of just muddying it.
So I read an article here recently, Marissa, and I want to throw this out to you to see if you tend to agree. And it said that today we seem to have more solo artists, and that people of your generation don't necessarily think about musicians as being a band. And back in our younger days, when Scott and I were your age, it seemed, we had singer-songwriters, but I seem to have more of a band concept.
Yeah.
So, and I noticed that of the four people that we've talked about with you, three of them have been solo performers. So, do you identify more with a solo performer than you do a band? And what about your contemporaries, your friends? Do you guys still think about bands, or what's going on there?
Well, I think that like in terms of like a band, yes, I don't. I mean, I grew up with bands like Blink-182 was really big when I was growing up, and different punk bands, right? But I think we also, and music is oftentimes a reflection of our culture. And in my generation, culture really tried to emulate and like a person, like an idol, right? Like a person that you could look up to. And we saw that, and we could see music videos coming out on MTV, and we could see this on YouTube and all these different things. So a band, although is, together makes a great show and a great sound and fun people to listen to. A single individual artist like a Britney Spears, you have 100,000 girls that see this person as an idol, like someone they can look up to, versus a band where it's just like, oh, that's a group of people I really like to listen to. So then like, again, like in our American culture, we really try to idolize one person or somebody. And, like people like Justin Bieber isn't a band, right? But he has lots of people behind him. But a lot of people identify these individual artists as people that they want to be. And I don't think my generation had a chance to really like see, can really break apart a band, and be like, oh, I like this person and this person. I don't know. I think it's very mainstream culture and mixed with our music culture.
Yeah, it's very obvious when you're just a solo artist. It's very obvious if there's something that grabs your attention or something you like or whatever. It's very obvious whose vision that is, right? Where so it's a little easier to identify with that person whose vision it is. Where when it's a band, it's more of a collaborative effort, and the vision kind of spreads around. But that also, back in the day, a lot of time what would happen, the bands that became big, most of them, not all of them, especially later in the 70s and into the 80s, all these bands, you saw them all. The big thing became that, okay, that people were taking a break from the band and they would go out and just do a solo album, or they would do a solo tour or whatever. And sometimes when a band broke up, or the lead singer or the lead guitarist or whatever would leave the band, it was all about them going out saying, okay, I just felt constrained by the limitations of playing in this band, because it had to, it's just a lot. They just felt constrained by that, and they wanted to go out and do their own thing without the limitation of what everybody else in this band wanted them to do, and the borders that they wanted to put in.
Yeah, you see that a lot in our culture, where it's like, like NSYNC, Justin, or I don't know all the bands, but like different individual artists break out, and we saw that like their successes. The bands themselves in my generation, really, I think that the main difference is bands, a lot of my generation leaned more towards what was selling versus what their passion was. And you can see that in longevity with your guys' generation of bands that are still touring or still making music or still selling records.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Well, the choices you've given us, Marissa, have always been interesting, particularly in the songs that these performers are writing, and they are intimate songs, and they're, to me anyway, it seems like they're plumbing a lot of the depths of human feelings and relationships and things like that. Sometimes almost to the point of angst, but interesting. Their songs are, and the topics they write about certainly are not boring. And, the music is different than what I grew up with. But I do really appreciate the artists that you pick for the material they're creating. It's certainly interesting, and it's not boring. So there's a serious side to you that I don't see very often.
It's so funny.
And here's something I was thinking about too. As I didn't listen to Howard's entire catalog. I just pretty much focused on this Every Kingdom on his first album, which, by the way, I was looking into it, and Howard seems to be pretty popular, fairly successful in the United Kingdom, but he hasn't made much of a dent here in the U.S. as
Right.
far as album sales anyway. Like this debut album did not chart at all in the U.S. I think his second album, the follow-up, which was called hold on, let me get that in front of me. It was called I Forgot Where We Were in 2014. That did get up into the 20s on the U.S. album charts, but then his subsequent two albums, 2018 and then this year 2021, neither of them have even charted or just barely charted. So this is one of the guys, and we've always had these people who become big in the United Kingdom and they just couldn't make a dent here, and vice versa. And this seems to be one of the guys that seems to be pretty popular in the United Kingdom, but has a hard time finding an audience here. Anyway, getting back to where I was going, my original point where I was going on Every Kingdom. I found this album, his collaborator, the producer of this album, Chris Bond, who was also plays guitar. I think he's a multi-instrumentalist on this album, but this Bond is the one that produced this debut album, and wrote a couple of songs on it, helped him write a couple of songs on it. I thought he was the star of the show here, this guy, Chris Bond. This album just, it's been a long time since I've heard an album where it was the production value just clean and expertly done. There wasn't a whole lot of electronic stuff being done here. It all pretty sounded pretty organic, and Bond just really made it sound really clean, and it was really bright and a lot of space in it, and it just sounded good. I was not impressed too much by Ben Howard himself. It's like, yeah, okay, most people are referring to him as folk and indie folk. Well, you start getting into folk, and as Bob knows, it's not my cup of tea. It's just I didn't find a whole lot to like about the songwriting or the musical performances here. I was more taken with, like I say, with the production values of this album, which I haven't heard an album in a long time that was produced this well. That said, that video clip I just played, and I found two or three different songs that he's performing on this particular show. They're broken up into separate video clips, and I watched two or three of them. That said, I found him a lot more intriguing watching those live video clips than I did listening to this album. Probably the fact that you see him how he's playing the guitar, and you can actually see it. And somebody like me, who I don't know, I don't know the details of how to play a guitar or anything like that, and I don't pick up on these things just hearing the record. But when I see it on a video, I thought, well, that's pretty cool. Also, what I loved was him with the woman there who was playing the next to him and singing his backup. I thought she was a brilliant addition. Added a lot to his songs. Same songs I heard on this album that I wasn't impressed with. I heard him and the woman performing, and then there were he had a couple of other musicians on stage with him, but they were kind of off in the background. I imagine Chris Bond was one of those, where it was just the spotlight was focused on Ben Howard and the woman who was sitting next to him and performing. I like that, and it got me to thinking that I'm running across a lot of that these days. Back in the day, I always, most of the time, I always thought that the recorded music was more enjoyable and better performed and more well done in the studio than it was on stage and in live albums back in the day. It's just the opposite now for me. Every time I'm running across somebody new, some of the folks that you introduced us to, it happened with Sufjan Stevens, the guy that Bob introduced me to a while ago. But I'm finding that this current generation of musicians, they just seem to be better live performers than they are recording artists. At least I'm finding it. Even some of the bands that I've gotten onto in the last few years and became fans of, the Dresden Dolls and a couple of others, it's the same way. I would much rather watch them and listen to them performing live than on the record, and it didn't used to be that way for me. And I don't know why, and it made me wonder if that's a result of what's going on in the marketplace. Like, we've talked about before, like, it used to be where musicians made their money releasing albums, and they would record albums and release 2 or 3 every couple of years. I mean, they're just at a fast, brisk pace, where now it's like every 3 or 4 years they come out with an album. But where the marketplace is now, where people are doing their commerce is with their live shows and with their tours. And it got me to thinking, is the reason that I'm finding these live performances much more enjoyable than the records that I'm listening to, is it because now just because the way the marketplace is and where the commerce is it because they're spending more time focusing on what their live performances are more than they're focusing on their recorded output, where the recorded output now is just something to sell to promote their live performances, or it used to be the other way around. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And it's just, and I don't know if I just made that up or if that's just out of whole cloth and if that's just out of the blue. But I started, it started occurring to me that pretty much everybody knew that I'm being introduced to these days. I'm liking their live performances a lot more than their recorded performances, and it used to be just the opposite. And so, so I got to trying to logic that out, and that's what I came up with, is that they're spending more time and effort and throwing their heart more into their live performances than they used to. I don't know. That's just something to throw out there.
Well, I have the same observation, but I think I come to it for different reasons. But like Dermot Kennedy, when Marissa introduced us to him, I was kind of indifferent to the recordings. But when I went to the show with her, God, I was just blown away by the guy. And It was completely different than what I was hearing him come from the recording studio. And I agree with you on this too. I love watching the video clips of the guy, and I'm seeing that unique guitar style he's got. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm going to refer back to the clip, the segment from Robbie Krieger's book that we talked about recently, where he actually said, if you listen to our albums, you can hear the flaws, where one of us came in late or dropped a note or something. And I think my theory is that what's going on now is we have so much stuff that they can do in the studio now that they couldn't do decades ago, that everything is coming out just absolutely perfect. And I think maybe they've lost some of the spontaneity and the feeling in the studio. So now when they're on stage, the humanity to the music is coming back, because it's not sterile like they're doing in the studio. And now you can go into a studio and produce an album without really even needing other musicians. You can bring in all of the pre-recorded drum sounds, and you've got the auto tune that makes everything 100% pitch perfect. So, you're not getting the subtle contrast that I think we used to. So I think we've lost something in the studio because of all the technology we have that's being regained back on stage. That's my theory.
Yeah. But just to say on this particular record, what you're talking about, with the auto tune and just kind of slapping to get something together and everything like that. I did not get that from this album, especially on, like I say, like on this producer Chris Bond. I thought he did a heck of a job with this. It's just that the material just wasn't my cup of tea. But but that could be part of it too. Is just okay. Let's just go in and knock out an album, and overall, let's just go in and knock out an album, get it out there because we need something to help us sell tickets to our live show. So the effort and the focus isn't on the records. They're just kind of putting the stuff together as quickly as they can.
That makes sense with how we access music, where it's like everything's streaming and everything. Like bands and artists aren't getting the same amount of income versus for album sales as back in your day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was actually just to piggyback off that. The other day I told my dad, I was like, hey, so this artist it's a band really that I watch on YouTube, and they've been really popular. And I'm like, man, I'd really want to go see them. Well, it turns out that their tickets were like over $100 and it was like maybe like $200 or $300 for a ticket. And the interesting thing is it's an intimate setting, so only a certain amount of people can be in that for it to be able to be the way that it should be. But still, it was just interesting to know that, like, wow, yeah, they're putting so much effort into making sure that, hey, we can get these people in here because we're going to charge this much for the venue or this much for
right. And the extension of that is they're paying much more attention to the show that they're putting on the stage than they are the record that they're putting out. I don't know. It makes sense to me. It sounds logical to me. I don't know if it's just something that just fever dreams that we're having or what. But I find it interesting. It's just it makes sense to me that could be what's going on. But what do I know? I'm not a recording artist. I'm not a performer. But like, for instance, on this one, on Ben, on this, and I don't know about all of his recorded output. This Every Kingdom, the debut, is the only one that I've listened to. But part of what happened there is he hired this woman, he brought her on stage, and I don't know what the whole story is. I don't know who the woman is or what their background is or whether she became a regular contributor to his or what. I have no idea. I just know what I saw. And it just, and to me, she added so much to that song. To just that one song, that clip I played, she added so much to that song, where on this record, it was just him singing the song, without any, without a backing vocal or without the strings that this woman was playing or anything like that. It was just him playing, and it just sounded like every other song on this album to me. And so I thought it was kind of cool. Marissa, so you're going to go see the Doors this week?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So is my twin sister. She'll be joining us next week, right? I believe so.
That's just to set up our promo for next week. Marissa will be back with us for a second week in a row next week, for the first time ever. She and her sister Morgan are going to go with Father Bob to the local movie house and to see the Doors live at the Hollywood Bowl, which is being shown in just as a one-time event in movie houses across the country simultaneously. What is that, Friday night or Saturday night?
Thursday
night. And it's got to be the Doors. It's been around for a long time, live at the Hollywood Bowl, but it's, I think, an extended edition of it where they've added some some previously unseen footage. They have some videos of interviews with the surviving band members, Robbie Krieger and John Densmore. They're going to be part of the bill. So anyway, Marissa and Morgan, her sister, and her father, Bob, are going to go Thursday night to see this movie, and they'll be back with us next Wednesday to tell us how they liked it, give us a review of what they saw. And I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting experience to see what my millennials think about the music of my generation, and especially Morgan, because she's our country fan. So it's going to be it'll be an out-of-body experience for her for sure.
Scott, I don't know if my dad ever told you this, but I worked at Guitar Center for about 2 years right out of high school. And I had the opportunity to speak with a lot of different people of all different kinds of walks from life with different music tastes, to reggae, to the Doors, so many different kinds of people. So I really developed a passion for seeing people excited for music, gatherings of people, not just crowds of people. So I'm excited to go with my dad. I'm excited to see my sister, just like my dad said, if it isn't Jason Aldean, I don't know if she knows anything about that person. So I'm excited.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. I know Dee is too. Dee is planning to be back with us next week. I think he's planning on going to see the movie on Thursday night also. So that'll be next week, on Wednesday next week. Come back and join us on Friday. We'll have a Freeform Friday for you. One of us will have a review of something for you. And then Sunday, as usual, will be our Geezerology Gazette. Thanks for checking in with us, everybody. And we'll see you in a couple days.
One moment, Scotty, before we sign off. I will never pass up an opportunity to embarrass my children. So in the midst of our show, I just texted you a picture of the guitar undergoing repairs, so you might.
All right, I'll throw that.
You can throw that up to see what it looks like.
That's what I was asking to see. I didn't know that you had repaired it. Okay.
And then, Marissa, I just want to say I do appreciate the stuff that you're introducing us to. It takes me out of my comfort zone to listen to it. I like the lyrics and stuff of the people that you're picking. I like their songs, not necessarily the music, but I really appreciate the things that they're trying to say, and it gives me an insight into how your brain works, because I've never been able to figure that out in the 29 years you've been alive. So
I'm enjoying the videos that I'm finding of these people. not so much the albums, but the songs. I'm just enjoying these videos, except in 1975. That's the one I liked them a lot. I became a fan of the 1975. Okay, everybody. I won't go through all that again. So long. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in a couple of days.
All right. Thanks, Marissa. Bye, everybody.
Bye.